I want to introduce Dr. Subhendu Ghosh, Assistant Professor of Department of Physiology, Hooghly Mohsin College. He is also a member of the Ecotoxicology and Environmental Science. He gave a presentation on the interception of micronutrients in viral infection and a nutritional approach towards the management of the COVID-19. Now hand over to Dr. Subhendu Ghosh.
Said that not yet any therapeutic medicine or vaccine has yet been established or has yet been found that can cure COVID. So the only way to protect us, I think so, it's a lifelong experience and lifelong terms that has been used by our seniors as also nowadays doctors that give have a healthy diet and have a healthy nutrient supply so that you can manage any sort of disorders. So I have focused here on a nutritional approach that towards managing any sort of viral infections, as well as that might give a perspective on the mechanism of on the perspective on the prevention of this mechanism of spreading of COVID virus. So first of all, let me give you an overview of our antiviral immunity. Virus usually, when it infects a host cell, the primary line of defense is our innate immune system that is known to us. And innate immune systems involves the WBCs, the monocytes, and our some T cells, and also some substances which are known as cytokines, some type of cytokines, specifically the interferons, which are secreted that help in the management of primary immune response in human systems or in animal systems. So in this picture, we can see that if a virus infects a cell, it will first of all be internalized and viral proteins or viral substances will be released, and these viral substances will be accepted by host pattern recognition receptors, which is present in the host cells, and that will ultimately help in the phosphorylation and dimerization of interferon alpha and beta genes, and these genes along with nuclear factors kappa B and activator protein 1 activates the transcription of interferon beta gene. This interferon beta gene in turn helps in the helps in the surface expression of the receptors of specific receptors, that is MH1 class proteins, as well as surface receptor for the expression of nature killer cell proteins, as nature killer cells and surface receptor proteins for, that is MHC class 1 proteins for the cytotoxic lymphocytes. So these substances, cytotoxic lymphocyte, when it binds to such infected cell receptors, and nature killer cells, when it just bind to these receptors, they usually secrete another type of interferon, which is known as interferon gamma. And interferon gamma has been said to prevent, or has the property to prevent any sort of viral replication, or it can block viral replication. Another way, if the virus directly enters into the circulation, that is about a host cell, epithelial cells or any type of cells present within the body, and thereafter, if the virus enters into the bloodstream, what happens? First of all, I have said that the antigen presenting cells, which are the first lineage of innate immunity, these cells usually this virus usually enters this cell, and here these viruses acts on TLR receptors. They bind to TLR receptors, and TLR receptors helps in the expression of nuclear factor kappa, and this, as I have told previously, in nuclear factor kappa and activating factors will bind to the nucleus of the cells, and it will help in the production of interleukin beta and interleukin 1 beta and interleukin 12. Now these interleukins will again, and as well as again these interferons will help in the synthesis of this TLR, as well as the synthesis of MH class 2 proteins that binds to TH0 type of cells, that is these T cells have not yet been differentiated. and MH1 receptors that will again bind to cytotoxic cell CTL, and this will again release this interferon. So this interferon signaling cascade will then ultimately get amplified. And thereafter, what happens? This TNA alpha and interferon 1 beta or interleukin 1 beta, sorry, and interleukin 2 112 will then bind to these TH0 cells, and it will help in the differentiation of these cells in two types of cells, that is TH1 and TH2 cells. TH1 cells will again release a type of cytokine, that is an interleukin, that will again activate the cytotoxic T lymphocytes, which will again help in the production of interferon gamma. And interferon gamma that is produced, that helps these TH1 cells to differentiate, because they are helper cells. They will help in these TH1 cells to activate B cells and conversion of these B cells to plasma cells, and plasma cells will ultimately help in the expression of the various types of immunoglobulins that are related to immune response IgA, IgG, and IgM. These are the immune responsive cells that will help in the viral neutralization directly, or by the activation of complement system, it will help in the process of generation of opsonization. So this is a brief overview, and this T lymphocyte and B lymphocyte mediated immunity is usually our adapted cell immune response, because adaptive immune response helps in the production of these antibodies as well as these interleukins. Now, another aspect of this viral infection and viral replication is that when this virus usually infects a host cells, it usually tries to generate reactive oxygen species as well as reactive nitrogen species, which usually leads to the damage of this cell. But the good point is that as it damages these cells, it also tries to activate a pathway that is known as the NRF2 pathway. This NRF2, which is known as nuclear factor erythroid 2 related factor, this factor pathway will ultimately be translocated to the nucleus. It will be ultimately translocated to the nucleus, and from there it will activate certain promoter sequences of NRF2 genes by binding to MAF and NRF2 proteins, which will ultimately lead to the expression of certain proteins that is related to directly antioxidative responses within the system, or antioxidative stress responses, or relief antioxidant stress responses within the system, that includes heme oxygenase 1 heme oxygenase 1, and then the new NADPH quinone oxidase pathway, the glutamate cysteine ligase pathway, for protein glutamate cysteine ligase protein synthesis, the glutathione S transferase synthesis, GGPX, that is glutathione peroxidase synthesis, SOD synthesis, as well as catalase and glucose 6-phosphate gene expression and synthesis of this protein, that will confer the protection, that will protect the host cells from this ultimate cell injury created by the ROS, and it will directly inhibit the viral pathway. So this is another mechanism by which the viral infection is usually prevented within the system. So there are two pathways. One is the release of cytokines and chemokines that shows inflammatory response, that includes the innate immunity as well as adaptive immunity. And another is the generation of oxidative stress, which can be managed by the synthesis of antioxidant pathways. Usually vitamins and minerals, not only vitamins and minerals are important micronutrients that usually interfere in both these two mechanisms, and they might check or prevent the expression of this type of symptoms and immune related deficiencies, or rather development of immune deficiencies, as well as prevent the virus from replicating further. They have this power. Usually the vitamins and minerals have this power. But the most important research focus today is on specific type of vitamins, which are discussed in this presentation, and these vitamins usually include vitamin D, vitamin B complex, vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin E, and metals, specifically zinc, has got a crucial role in this process of antimicrobial or pathogenic mediated host cell immune response, so as to check the so as to build the human immune system, build up the human immune system to fight against such type of antimicrobial proteins or this antimicrobials, and this might include the coronavirus too. Now, first of all, let us see. So I shall discuss about the most critical vitamin that is being recently focused, that deficiencies of this vitamin creates to a multitude of diseases within systems, specifically in human systems. So we should have a brief idea about the metabolism of vitamin D and its effects on both immune and non-immune cells. Usually vitamin D is primarily obtained from food, and if you look at the points, it's clarified as point number 1, point number 2, and I'm explaining these points. If you view these points, you can get the explanation. Now, vitamin D is usually obtained primarily from food, and thereafter another source is, nevertheless, the sunlight is another important source where exposure of vitamin D to skin will with the UV rays alters the 7-dihydrocholecalciferol expression, and this is known as pre-vitamin D3. Pre-vitamin D3 is ultimately converted to D3 by 25 hydroxy 25 OHD, that is 25 hydroxy vitamin D. It is converted to 25 hydroxy vitamin D by the help of 25 hydroxylase in the liver, and thereafter 25 hydroxylase D is then transported from the liver to the kidney over here, and here it is converted by the help of enzyme CYP27B1, that is cytochrome P50 27B1 class, which helps in the conversion to 1,2,5 dihydroxycholecalciferol, and I think this is the most important portion or most important active form of this vitamin D3. And since its metabolism, so what happens? This 1 to 5 hydroxy 2D, that is active vitamin D3, is further inactivated and converted to 24-25 hydroxy 2D by the help of enzyme CYP24A1. Now, this important vitamin D3, that is CYP21, 1 to 5 hydroxycholecalciferol, that is vitamin D3, is usually binds to specific type of receptors, which is known as vitamin D receptors on target cells. Now, vitamin D receptors is expressed in multitude type of cells. These are the non-immune cells. It is expressed in heart, it is expressed in brain, it is expressed in intestine, kidney, bone, parathyroid, heart muscle, eyes, brain, pancreas, and other epithelial cells too. But also the immune system cells has got a power or property of this synthesizing these vitamin D receptors, VDR receptors, and also they have this enzyme CYP27B1 that is helping in the conversion, CYP27B1 that is helping in the conversion of 25 hydroxycholecalciferol to 1 to 5 dihydroxycholecalciferol. So we can see that immune system has also got the power of synthesizing vitamin D, as well as they have got the receptors for binding of this vitamin D. Now, vitamin D usually alters certain functions that is the non-immune function. That is, it helps in the bone development. It helps in normal kidney function, renin-angiotensin system development of the proper function of renin-angiotensin system. Vitamin D is responsible for cardiac function, and that is known to us. And and intestinal gut intestinal function is also dependent on vitamin, is relevant to vitamin A functions, because vitamin D deficiencies may lead to insulin deficiency syndrome, and that might lead to diabetes and other factors. It's quite known to us. But I will focus on this immune system and the vitamin D function. So what happens? Vitamin D usually in immune cells bind to RXR. Here it's given RXR. You can see the term RXR. That is also known as, that is the full form of RXR is retinoic acid X receptor or retinoic X receptors, as well as the toll-like receptors. So VDR and retinoic acid X receptors usually forms dimers, and these dimer usually bind to VDR promoter regions, which expresses these VDR proteins on the surface of these immune cells, as well as also this helps in the transcription of many other genes that might be responsible for the generation of immune generation of proteins that might cope or that might try to prevent the viral entry and viral replication within the physiologic systems. So let me go to the next slide. Here I have mentioned that vitamin D and induction of antimicrobial peptides against vitamin infection, virus infection, sorry. So what happens, as we have said previously, that binding of this VDR and RXR RXR receptors with each other, they usually form heterodimers, and they usually activates the JAK-STAT pathway, and this leads to the synthesis of antimicrobial peptides, which are also known as calithidins. And two important antimicrobial peptides are shown over here. They are the LL37 and HBDs. So these two proteins usually have a clearance rate, as a greater clearance rate for this viral infection, as by either mitochondrial membrane depolarization, release of cytochrome C, that might lead to apoptosis of the viral cells or infected cells when it is endosized into lysosomes, or it may downregulate the viral entry as well as viral replication and viral release. Now, these receptor complexes as well as these proteins LL37 and HSBs, they usually protect the viral RNA from degradation, because degraded viral RNA might lead to activation of immune system. In the first slide I have shown, they help in the release of interferons and interleukin. They help in the release of interferons, and by the help of this protein, that is by the help of the protein that is host recognition receptor, by binding to host recognition receptor, these receptors might get activated and might release the interference, and that might again increase the signaling cascade of inflammatory response, which should be prevented first, because in COVID also we can see that inflammatory response is the primary effect of this type of acute respiratory diseases. So here we can see that they downregulate viral replication, viral release, as well as they protect the viral RNAs from degradation and induce immune response through toll-like receptor activations, either directly or indirectly. In the next slide, I am trying to show that the immunoregulatory functions of vitamin D in various infections, in viral infection. That is, here we can see that I have also mentioned here this, and the previous slide also I have mentioned here, that how the viruses, since I have a short time, I can't explain each and every point of this slide. I have just listed the points, and here you can see clearly that adeno, HSV, EVP, as well as other type RSV viruses and HIV2, HCV and HIV2 also have been shown to be manifested, or has been shown to be, this viral infection has been shown to be modulated by the presence of this active D3 by LL37 and HBDs in via different mechanisms. Now, if we then come to the immune regulatory functions of vitamin D, we will see that vitamin D, functions of vitamin D in viral infection, immune regulatory functions increases the virus-specific CD8 plus T cells. Specifically, this occurs in EVP and influenza viruses. You can note the points. One, we can note the second point where I have said that inhibition of B cell differentiation to plasma cells and class switching memory B cells, because in case of Epstein-Barr virus, because inhibition of B cell differentiation to plasma cells and switching of B cell to switching to memory B cells will lead to a cascade of development of immunoglobulins that usually is IgA and IgE, which usually shows hypersensitive and immune responses much more. So it prevents usually class switching. So this is not a disadvantage, but it's an advantage if we consider in this way, that it prevents the class switching of B, where a single monoclonal antibody might be formed, and it will prevent the various types of multiclonal multiclonal antibody formations. And second is that it reduces the levels of antibodies against viruses available in immune cells. So because if it reduces the availability of antibody, then what happens? The invasion of the interferons and interleukins and the cytokine storm, which I'll discuss later, will be reduced a bit later. Will be reduced will be reduced to a greater extent rather. And this vitamin D, and therefore synergizing with vitamin D, it regulates, of course, the CYP27B1 in these infected cells or in this immunogenic lineage of cells, as well as that will help in the increase of circulating vitamin D, that will help in the as I said previously, that will help in the production of calthridins in a much greater rate, and they will show further immune response. And this is the way how HBV and rhinovirus diseases are usually prevented, and here these proteins have direct effect on viral replication. And if we consider the risk factors of the respiratory viruses in these cells, immune cells present over here, it has been found that these immune cells in these the immune cells usually have got a greater rate of VDR expression capability systems, which heterodimerizes with RXR receptors, and that will again initiate the development of these calthridins, various types of calthridins, and this will show host immune responses against this virus. And moreover, it will also recruit immune cells to the site of infection and alter the infection phase latency, and therefore the infected cells might be in a latent state, and the virus infection might not spread so early. So medications, other medications that can be used might be provided to the patient who is suffering from this type of viral infections, and they might get cured in that sense. But the crucial role played over here is the role played by this vitamin D. Now, vitamin D at the cellular level, usually they usually initiates a cascades of signaling pathways, acting as a co-activator specific ligand that is inducing trans-activation of VDR crosstalk vitamin B with vitamin B and B complex that we'll discuss later, vitamin B and TGF beta signaling pathway, and inhibitory effects via integrating in the vitamin D stimulated nuclear protein complexes, and that will help in the inhibition of vitamin D mediated cell switching of B lymphocytes, and also immunopathogenicity of this viral infection might be reduced by decreasing the level of inflammatory cytokine release. Further, they prevent the translocation of such inflammatory factors into the nucleus, and prevents the further expression of these genes, that is cytokine genes, and that might limit the for the amplification of this viral infection responses. Vitamin D also decreases viral proteins. As I have said that vitamin D helps in the prevention of viral replication. So in the lysosomes present over here, you can see that, sorry, in the previous slide, we can see that here it's given over here that here they have the power, they have the vitamin D has the potency to bind to the lysosomes, or rather bind to the lysosomes, and these lysosomes has got the property of preventing the encoding of viral proteins, or rather formation of encoding viral proteins. So the DNA cannot be encoded over here, and therefore the viral envelope is incomplete, and this viral infection cannot be propagated, or the immunogenicity of the virus may be reduced. So this is all about vitamin D, which has been now, so we can say that it has got a great immune modulatory action, not only in preventing viral replication, it also prevents virus protein assembly, it prevents the expression of inflammatory responses within systems, as well as it acts as a good mediator for for increased immune response by preventing class switching, but the secretion of specific type of immunoglobulins that might help in neutralization of some of the viruses. Next slide, we can say, next vitamin which I shall discuss is retinoic acid. So in this figure, I have shown that retinoic acid, usually the formation and the functions of the vitamin, I am discussing it in a faster way, because retinoic acid metabolism, vitamin A is known, the precursor form of vitamin A is also known as the beta carotene, which is obtained from diet, absorbed in the intestinal cells, esterified in retinal esters by enzyme lecithin retinyl acetyl transferase LCAT, and these retinol esters are packed into chylomicrons, and they enter into the general circulation, where they are captured by hepatocytes and stored as retinol. Those people who are having nutrition or they are studying in physiology, they have got a brief idea of these things. The retinol binds to retinol binding protein in liver and is carried through the bloodstream. This complex usually stimulates retinoic acid. You can see over here, this complex usually stimulates retinoic acid 6, that is STR6 receptors, which mediate the absorption of external retinol into the cytosol. After absorption, this retinoic acid is generally generated from retinol by sequential action, that is, first retinol is oxidized to retinal by alcohol dehydrogenase, and from there this retinaldehyde generate retinoic acid, and this retinoic acid helps in the immune regulatory functions in human systems, as via not only via specific methods which I am discussing later, but also via activation of cytochrome P450 enzymes, family enzymes, that helps in detoxification and removal of the viral proteins, as well as the other type of cell debris that might be responsible for producing immune response, further immune response, immune amplification, as well as inflammatory responses. So a brief idea about the infection. If the viral infection occurs, infection usually affects acute phase responses, reduce what happens in case of vitamin D deficiency, reduce plasma vitamin A, decrease vitamin D intake and absorption, reduce hepatic mobilization, increase retinol excretion. So this retinol excretion therefore is getting increased. As a result, what happens? The immune system responses are lowered, altered lymphocyte number and subsets, reduce innate immune response, altered cytokine production, and alter specific antibody responses. And this is the immune response. This is the acute phase response in the systemic circulation or blood in the blood, and epithelial cell damage because of the retinoic acid. Retinoic acid has also got an antioxidant effect. So oxidative stress mediated viral infection might get predominance, and therefore retinoic acid differential on host responses in viral infection is given in a table here. The viral replication usually not affected by vitamin D, vitamin A. So vitamin D is much more effective than vitamin A. Interferon alpha and beta responses at the site of initiation is still yet unknown, but vitamin D it has been established. Nature killer cells is decreased. Serum IgG, IgM responses are not affected. So we can see that immune mediated rather immunological functions is not affected, but class switching over here is affected or not is not yet been decided. So what happens, anaphylactic reactions might occur still if there is vitamin D sufficient or adequate amount of vitamin A. A cell mediated immune response is decreased, and that is a question because some cases it has been seen that cell mediated immune response is increased, and in some cases it has been seen that cell mediated immune response is decreased. Regeneration of virus damaged epithelial cells is previously extremely interfered or severely interfered. Therefore, it has got antiviral property. This shows that it has got antiviral property, and severities of infection in case of vitamin D is increased in case of vitamin A deficiency, and therefore clinical signs of mortality may be visible. And next we come to the immunomodulatory effects of vitamin E. Vitamin E D, we can see that here vitamin D acts on all types of vitamin E has got effects on all types of immune cells, specifically macrophage, dendritic cells, T cells, B cells, and nature killer cells. It increases the activity of nature killer cells. It increases antibody responses. It increases T cell proliferation and increases IL-2 production, but IL-4 production is decreased. Therefore, autoimmune generation might be reduced, and activation of cell death might be reduced. Vitamin E, and vitamin E on also dendritic cells, because macrophages and dendritic cells are the two antigen presenting cells. So in macrophages it decreases the COX activity. So therefore PGE2 generation and macrophage activation and macrophage mediated release of various types of interleukins or cytokines that might increase the cytokine level might be decreased, and it also decreases the NO, that is nitric oxide synthesis enzyme, and nitric oxide present within the macrophage, because nitric oxide is one of the antioxidants or is one of the oxidative stress agents that might mediate the oxidative stress mediated immune responses or killing of cell death. So I would be a bit faster rather. So these are the immunomodulatory effects of vitamin E. So vitamin E has got another immunomodulatory effect. I have said that NRF2 pathway that helps in the generation of antioxidant cascade. Vitamin D has also got an effect on the boosting of vitamin E, and C has got a synergistic effect, or they act in synchrony in boosting of this expression of this antioxidant enzyme cascade system, as I have told previously. And therefore, the antioxidant mediated, oxidative stress mediated viral response might be reduced. And vitamin C, that is oxidative stress mediated effects on vitamin C, I have given over here. We know it very much. It has got various types of effects on the systemic. Therefore, usually they creates various types of oxidative stress mediated diseases in human systems and organs. And therefore, the stress mediated effects has been summarized over here. But the main effect of this vitamin C in the process of in the process of antimicrobial responses, or rather in the process of decrease of the viral application, in process of the decrease of this viral infection, is by the NRF2 pathway that activates the antioxidant cascade system, and it tries to prevent the cell death by the help of these antioxidant enzymes that will neutralize the reactive oxygen species and reactive nitrogen species that will prevent lipid damage and cell membrane damage. Next comes to another important substance of vitamin, that is doctors usually prescribe that when you have common cold, when you have influenza virus, try to take multivitamins and vitamin B complex. So vitamin B complex is also a good substitute for preventing any sort of viral or influenza or rather viral infection. And vitamin D, first of all, vitamin D has got two types of effect. They usually, since we know that vitamin B complex has got, they are usually acting as cofactors in our various enzyme systems that are involved in our digestion and metabolism. So, as well as in metabolism. So, what happens? Vitamin B usually helps in the conversion of fatty acids to acetyl coenzyme A, and vitamin B1 activates its TCA cycle, and therefore oxidative phosphorylation and ATP generation is increased. So, the cell gets energy and ATP, and this ATP might help in providing energy to the cells. And as we know that ATP has got ATP usually gives energy to immune cells so as to so that they can function properly, and therefore and moreover the vitamin B complex usually in T cells usually vitamin B in B cells, this vitamin B also helps in the increasing glycolytic systems as well as generation of increased pyruvate to lactate that might prevent infection, and it might reduce the TCA cycle rather it might reduce the conversion of this glycolytic cycle to TCA cycle. And vitamin B complex also helps in the differentiation of native B cells to IgA producing cells. This is all about the vitamin B1 and vitamin B2, because these two vitamins, that is pyridoxal phosphate and thiamine, they are usually engaged in the glycolytic cycle and energy metabolism in the immune cells. So these vitamins are essential. And vitamin B3 has got effects on dendritic cells and macrophages. They promote the anti-inflammatory properties, and this helps in the native T cells to T regulatory cells and T regulatory cells survival, because regulatory T cells helps in the maintenance or balance between the helper T cells and cytotoxic T cells as well as nature killer cells. So the vitamin B9 helps in these T regulatory cell functions and differentiation of T regulatory cells in subtype of cells as it is essential. And vitamin B7 helps in the biomethylation of histones in immune cells, because histone biomethylation is again related to epigenetic mechanism of regulation of gene expression in case of immune cells, and that might be responsible for the synthesis of various types of immune cell receptors, cells receptor expression on the immune cells, as well as this class switching and VDJ segments of the nuclear combination of B cells for the formation of the various types of immunoglobulins, and expression of the various type of T cell receptors and B cell receptors might be might be aided by this vitamin B7. Now, next come to the effect of zinc. I will discuss this effect of zinc in details in the next portion. Now, here I have given a brief idea about the transporters, because zinc is usually transported in the system by two types of transporters, ZNTs and ZNPs. ZNTs usually reduces the intercellular cytoplasmic zinc levels, and by exporting the zinc from the cytosol to the intercellular space, or increases increases incorporation into vesicles, or vitamin ZNPs. What happens, or there is ZIP proteins, that is ZIP proteins. ZIP proteins usually increases the cellular uptake of zinc, and therefore it may bind to certain proteins which are known as metathionine proteins, and these metathionine proteins usually help to mediate the various type of functions, or rather help to mediate the zinc homeostasis within any physiological system. I will discuss about these functions of this zinc later in when I shall go to COVID. Now, there are also another important aspects of dietary aspects which helps in the protection from any sort of microbial or viral infection within the gut or other system. They are the effects of probiotics. Probiotics usually they help in the decrease of Th2 response, local immune responses. I am going faster. Local immune responses increases tolerogenic effect, increases TG beta production and reduces the systemic antigen load, reduces Th2 production and increases antimicrobial activity. You may discuss with me later if you want to know further. Now, what are the functions of probiotics? Therefore, probiotics has got these are in common known functions. It antagonizes the harmful microorganisms, the strengthens immune system, improves digestion, produces vitamin K, cyanocobalamin, thiamine, and vitamin choline, because these B complex vitamins again helps in immune functions, normalizes the level of cholesterol, digestive carbohydrate, regulates the absorption of minerals, as well as prevents the reproduction of pathogenic microflora. Now, ultimately, we shall go to the main culprit, which has not yet been treated, and we are studying so far advanced. We are studying in different ways that how to prevent this how to prevent this virus, this main allergen. So, by the help of various types of therapeutics, and nutrition or diet therapeutics or micronutrient therapy might be a big or good perspective for this protective effect on the prevention of NCOVD-19. So I am giving a brief idea of the genomic structures of the coronavirus. It is having a DNA length of 30,000 kb. It is having the following important proteins: ORF1 proteins, ORF12 proteins, S proteins, ORF3A proteins, M proteins, and N proteins. So S and N proteins are two important proteins that leads to this antigenicity, that is spike proteins and matrix protein that relates to the antigenicity of this virus. What is the Jiang Gai, which he has given, he has proposed a latest mechanism that how this SARS-CoV-19 usually infects the physiologic system. And Guy's hypothesis concerning, if you look at the figure, if you follow me, you can look at the figure, you can get an idea. Guy's hypothesis concerning SARS COVID infection, where the scheme shows that that how SARS COVID infects the human body to respiratory tract by entering into the epithelial cells of the trachea, bronchi, bronchiole, and lungs. Now, usually this virus colonizes and also resides in the respiratory tract in the respiratory tract immune cells. That is, they usually also reside in the immune cells and circulating immune cells. This virus disseminates to all human organs later, and being carried by infected circulatory immune cells and spread to the different types of cells and other organs. So, the immune cells of the spleen, peripheral, and central lymph nodes and lymphoid tissues are colonized, and they are usually damaged by the virus in this way. So, entire system is affected. Further, the mucosa of intestine, renal and distal tubules, brain macrophages, brain are also affected by these enzymes. So, according to this Guy's hypothesis, we can say that infected immune cells usually spread to mucus-associated lymphatic tissue as well as bronchus-associated lymphatic tissue, and this immune defense is significantly impaired in infected patients, and they develop usually pneumonia with different degrees of severity and rapid deterioration of clinical condition. And in case of aged people, this disease is chronic because of compromised immune system, and they develop certain clinical pictures by spreading of this virus not only within the respiratory system, but also to the other systems. Now, in this respiratory system, usually these viruses acts by increasing this cytokine storm. So, what is actually cytokine storm? This is the mechanism usually that is involved in ARDS development within the viral system. So, this is also responsible for showing the pathogenicity of this virus. Usually, what happens? Usually, what happens when this virus infects the cell? Usually, when this virus infects a cell, these viruses try to increase the levels of cytokines, that is through the expression of prostaglandins. From the expression of prostaglandins from the platelets, they help in the expression of TNF alpha, TNF IL-4, IL-1, and also IL-6, which usually increases the various types of cytokine levels within the system, and enzyme the binding to promoters of this, specifically here is given the figure. In the figure it's given that binding of this binding of usually N and S viral proteins causes some target sequences on DNA in this nucleus of human cells. So they have showed last time I had mentioned that N and S proteins are the two important proteins that helps in this type of responses, cytokine storm responses. So N and S viral proteins possess some target sequences on the DNA in the nucleus of human cells. In particular, some binding motifs usually are detectable. Here I have given the binding motifs, that is they helps in the encoding of cytokines, enzymes, and other enzymes responsible for inflammatory response like IL-1, IL-6, and 8, TNF alpha, COX-2 I have told previously. And this high rate of viral application rate is also increased with elevated N and S protein. So this elevated N and S protein will further increase the generation of these interleukins and cytokine, and a cytokine storm will be produced that will degrade the immune system, as well as it will help in the generation of bronchial congestion. It will help in the inflammatory mediated response in bronchus. It will help in the alveolar emphysema formation, as well as alveolar collapse, and ultimately collapsing of the lungs and death of an individual. So this is the way how cytokine storm is responsible for this development of ARDS within physiologic system. Now I've told that I will tell the functions of vitamin D in COVID. So mechanism of action against COVID, usually it involves the progression. It involves the reduction in the progression of vitamin D. It reduces the progression of the systems by generation of this activation of macrophages as well as antimicrobial peptides, and this will ultimately lead to the development of the prevention of the viral replication and packing of the virus into envelopes, and therefore viral replication will be inhibited. So that was the effect of vitamins on COVID-19, as well as it is similar to other viral effects as I have said previously. Now other vitamins like vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin C has got immune modulatory effects. That is, it's given over here. Vitamin E acts on they act on monocrophages, dendritic cells, nature killer cells, B cells, and T cells, and the way they have they decreases usually they increases the immune response of both adaptive and innate immune system has been picturized over here. Since the time we are running short of time, so I will skip this slide. If you want to know in a greater sense, you may contact me later. Now, role of vitamin B complex in management of COPD. This is a new aspect. So, vitamin D, vitamin B2 prevents viral replication. Vitamin B3 prevents viral replication. Vitamin B5 prevents cytokine storm. Vitamin B6 induces IL-10 that prevents cytokine storm. And vitamin B12 helps in T cell expression and B cell responses to specific lines of immune cells. And B1 also helps in the generation of adaptive immune cells, generation of adaptive immunity within system by generation of specific type of immunoglobulins that might help in activation of complement system and opsonization of the bacterial proteins. And thereafter vitamin B9 has got direct effect on viral binding and viral invasions. So this is the way how vitamin B complex is used in the management of COVID-19. Now recent focus, the most important recent focus is being given on zinc. So zinc is now being focused that we are also working on zinc, on that nutrient zinc under what are the effects in oxidative stress mediated effects in systems or organs. We are working, my group is working, and I will discuss this. I will show my group later. So we are working on this group, and we can here we can see that zinc, usually the mechanism how zinc is affecting this type of preventing this type of infection is that zinc significantly improves. First of all, it improves the ciliary morphology and increases ciliary bit frequency. So what happens? The cilia structure, cilia size is increased, ciliary bit morphology is increased. So therefore, it can wash away or sweep away any sort of viral particles that is present. It does improve mucociliary clearance and removes the bacteria and virus containing particles. They upregulate the tight junctions. Therefore, infiltration of infiltration of virus or infiltration of immunological cells, as well as the diapedesis movement of the WBC are usually prevented. ZO1 and claudins, we know that these are the junctional proteins, and increases the antioxidant activity of the respiratory epithelial cells. Zinc also increases the barrier-mediated function in the respiratory epithelial cells. Zinc may possess antiviral activity through inhibition of reverse, that is RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, and blocking the further replication of viral DNA. So this is an important aspect, that it has got an inhibitory effect on viral replication by inhibition of RNA-dependent RNA polymerase expression. So this is the chief function which are now being worked, and it has been established by certain scientists, that they are working. Zinc affects the COVID, prevents this COVID expression in this way, or COVID multiplication in this way. It indirectly shows, it is indirectly evidence that zinc increases the zinc may increase the ACU2, and as previously our Madam Shutupa Madam, I think Suparna Madam, Suparna Madam has previously said in the previous lecture that ACE2 and ACE2E2 receptors are important aspects of the manifestations of the SARS-CoV, and therefore ACE2 receptors are suppressed or downregulated by this zinc, and therefore what happens? This SARS-CoV infection is decreased, and it upregulates INF alpha production and increases its antiviral activity, and all these functions are mediated usually through JAK-STAT pathway. And it also upregulates antiviral proteins, as we have said that vitamin D activates antiviral proteins, that is HSP1, and here they activate antiviral proteins RNA-ACL and PKA to degrade the viral RNA and inhibit the viral translation. And in this way, cytokine storms may be protected by this zinc. Now here in this figure, I've said the same thing, but I focused on the system, which I've already told or mentioned over here. So ultimately, what is the take-home message, or rather, how we can summarize it? That immune cells, that is vitamin E, vitamin C, selenium, they act on neutrophils. Vitamin D, vitamin zinc acts on monocytes. Omega-3 fatty acid, vitamin A, vitamin B12, vitamin 6 acts on macrophages. So they activate these immune cells, and B cells, T cells, and NK cells are usually activated by vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, B1, 6, 12, C, and zinc. So, and vitamin A and vitamin E. These are the types of adaptive immune cells that are being activated by various types of vitamin in common. But still, for COVID-19, two important elements have been stated to be, two important cellular micronutrients had been stated to be taken up or has been given focused on, because nanozinc particles are now being used in case of animals to show that how nanozinc particles usually help in managing COVID, as well as vitamin D3 by exposure of animals to sunlight, that how this COVID management is being prevented. So these are the two aspects of the two important micronutrients that are now being studied for the management of COVID-19. And this is my research team, Dr. Sharmila Pal, she is the president, Dr. Debashree Ghosh, she is faculty of Madhpur Government College, Arpan Bhattacharya is your NET Junior GRF Fellow, Sumit Mondal, he is a doctor, Debashree Mondal, she is working under me, and Shubhajit Nondi has just joined my special, and he has done a great job for me. He has helped me out in many ways for preparing this presentation. So heartfelt thanks to all of them. And ultimately, let's see who wins, micronutrients or coronavirus. And thanks to you all for your patient hearing.